Hello, everybody. I'm debating whether or not I want to close. Can you hear me? Yeah, I think the mic's on. Hello? Don't see the thing moving. Can you guys hear me? I think the mic is on. There we go. Okay, good. Okay. Hi, lots of people today. Jeez. Great to see everybody. I can actually leave the shades open because we have unfortunately reached that time of year where the days are getting shorter and the sun is taking a different trajectory across the sky. So here I am with the shades actually open, and then it's going to be the 22nd or whatever is the equinox. Yeah. So all right. So off to a good start today. Got lots of people here. That's great. Trying to think of what to talk about. It's a lot of back and forths in there. I am actually hungry. I'm going to be probably eating a lot on this stream. Probably going to be a semi shorter than usual stream. Also, I'm going to open this too. There's an Agelenopsis that has made a web in the corner of the window, and I love Agelenopsis a lot. And so I usually leave their webs if they make one in the house during the winter or during the fall and winter. So every time I move the window open and close, I mess up a little part of the web and I feel bad. So rip Kyle's beard. I haven't had a beard in a while, Alan. It's this hair that's growing out now. So let's see. Let's re-angle this a little bit. There we go. It's a little bit better. Shows off the shirt. So let's see. Things to talk about unless anybody has any questions. Hello, Amanda. Actually, hello, everybody. Let me go up and say hello to everybody that I can see because we got a lot of people here. Jeez. I feel like last week was the week for where there should have been more people and there weren't really that many. And now this week there's a lot of people. Okay, let's see. Let's say hi to Tennyson, Amanda, Jane. Martin is here. Great to see you at the beginning of a stream. Brett, Alan, Jojo, Nick, how do I pronounce your last name? I always say Bomi. Beamy? Is it Beamy? Bohemi? Or something? It's been I've seen your name for maybe over a decade now, and I still don't know. I think that covers everybody. Mads, good to see you too, Mads. Bomi, okay, that's kind of what I had expected. So I eat some cereal. I'm having cereal for dinner today. So, the last week has been a blur. I had the expo on Saturday, and I got home, and it's just been feet hitting the pavement, just doing all kinds of stuff. I have 2 more racks to set up. Next week will be the first batch of mantids back in stock since like July or June. And so I got to get ready for that. I'm scrambling to get fruit flies up to production for that. Do I have scratches from something? So there's that. I got to get ready for the big event in October. Again, I will I swear I will just pitch this once and I'll shut up about it at this live stream. October 1st and 2nd, 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern time will be the Roach Crossing Bugapalooza auction giveaway and more, etc. I'm going to be stuck in this chair, asterisk, the star, stuck in this chair for several hours. I'm probably going to run back and forth getting groups of things ready and inventorying things. Maybe I'll lower this just a little bit. Just a little bit. The sun looks really nice right now. There's a bunch of clouds in front of it, so it's very red as it's setting. And I'm debating whether or not I want to get out and do another outdoor live stream because the seasonality, as the seasons change, the front yard looks very different. We're coming into the time of year where all the goldenrods and asters are getting going, and it's probably there's less diversity of insects per se. I mean, there's some seasonal things that pop up that I always love seeing, and just more the sheer volume. Like there's so many bumblebees and just miscellaneous things, and just such large numbers out there at this time of year. And so I always love that. So it's always a nice time of year. So other things. Finally checked on the arachnid rack, since arachnids, air quotes, it's not just arachnids, it's got a bunch of odds and ends on it too, since I left for Arizona. Pretty much, and I was kind of procrastinating from it because I didn't want to do it, and there were some things I was like, oh no, I'm going to check on it. This is going to be dead because I took so much time to get to it. And so I finally got to it, and it's better than I anticipated. I had some things that I can't find, and some things I had. One of my paraphrynus white eye died. The one that was for sure female died, but then all the other ones are doing fine. And I don't know where my Chirinus acosta is. I've decided to flood the enclosure to try and drive it out if it's settled into the sort of more substratey areas as opposed to the decor that it was usually on. So I flooded the enclosure. I'm going to let it sit for a couple hours and see if it pops up. So those are some things that were, yes, the enclosure is secure. It's one of the faunariums with the muslin on it, so there's no way it can get out. So it's either in there or it died while I was gone. Both equally possible. But then there's some other good things that I found, like my Damon diadema that I paired up before I left. It seems that the female has had her eggs, so she's sitting there with eggs. So that's good. So that's a positive. And if Tennyson's here. I think, Tennyson, you were asked about Labradura riparia. So I checked on those. There was one of the first-ish things I set up when I got back from Arizona, and I've just sort of left them be and thrown in some pre-killed roaches every once in a while. And I checked on them today, and I was removing one of the pre-killed roaches. And I would say babies, but there's a mix of sizes from like first instar up to third instar. They all crawled out of the dead roach as I was picking it up. Friend of Kyle. Hello, Chris. Good to see you. So Labrador riparia doing great in the setup I have them in, eating pre-killed roaches and breeding abundantly. And that's a cool earwig. I gotta say, I couldn't believe how beautiful the one I found in Yuma was, and then to find so many of them in Roll. There's a place called Roll, Arizona. So that established pretty much everything else in the rack was looking pretty good. I'm gonna take a bite of cereal before I talk. I was encouraged into questionable decision making at the expo on Saturday, and with Kai's assistance, purchased. I can't find the Latin name for this, or it's not. If anybody knows anything more about Scolopendra metwinda, the Solomon Island giant, because I've seen them listed as being Scolopendra and another genus and another species, and it seems like people using metwinda is a very, very recent thing. So if anybody knows anything about the taxonomy of the Solomon Island giant centipedes, let me know. I would love to know more, but I was able to get a group of them for a pretty good price, and I'm like, why did I do that? Why did I do this? Hello, Michael here. So anyways, so now I have a group for future breeding, hopefully, of Scolopendra metwinda, or whatever the Solomon Island giant centipede is. And next week or the week after, I have some Scolopendra galapagoensis coming in. And where was I going with this? Centipede stuff. Oh, one of the good things that I found on that rack was the Rhysida longipes, which is the African olive or African longtail, or there's a billion different common names for it, but it's the fairly good sized centipede that's introduced in Florida, and I've seen countless times on trips, so much so that you just sort of start ignoring them. And a lot of people they probably look up pictures and they're not very appealing. I mean, they're drab. They have their highlights. Their head region and terminal region are kind of pretty. It's what more are you going to say? It's not a Hardwicke eye or anything like that. But anyways, so usually we find them. They'd be multiple individuals under boards and stuff like that, and so I think other people have echoed this, but I kind of figured I would just throw them all together in a communal because there's some other communal centipedes like Alipes species, which I also have in a communal right now. Hello, some eggs. It's been a while. Good to see you. So I threw somewhere between 4 and 8 Rhizida into a 10-gallon communal with a bunch of isopods and roaches just, roaming around. And I went to today. I'm in the middle of doing all this stuff with racks. I'm moving racks around, setting up new racks, trying to make as much room as possible while I'm still here. Probably have to get through another winter being here just because of logistics of things. And so I was like, okay, there's a 10-gallon tank and a space in this rack. I can, I don't know if I want to keep doing this project. I've been waiting since December for something to happen in this enclosure and nothing's happened. So I'll just get rid of it. And so I went to crack into it and pull out any centipedes that I found, and put them up for sale. And what do you know? There's a bunch of babies running around. So now it's like, okay, all right, this worked. That's good. That's good. So if anybody's looking for a very 100% sure communal centipede, Rhizida longipes can be kept and bred communally. So I'm going to do a quick Google and see if that's common knowledge or if people have sort of promoted that. Communal, Rhizida longipes, communal. All right, so there's a couple people who brought it up on arachnoboards. Let's see if I can even look at the arachnoboards things. Here's something from the Pure Life and I think it's from the same person. In 2016, they were reporting some progress with communal Rhizida raising. So that's good. Their setup doesn't look like it would be ideal long term. I feel like you really need to have a bunch of feeders sort of running around. Oh, it's the same person who posted on the arachnoboards about this. Oh, TJ commented on it, of course. I mean, it's not surprising that you can have communal. Here's people recommending against it because when I find like Thobius in the wild, the little stone centipedes, they're usually tons of them under a log, multiple life sizes. When they've infested my bins, when I haven't properly sterilized things, there's always mix of life sizes and whatnot. So multiple clutches from even after molting, yeah. So Alan, we found those huge Scolopendra alternans under that rock on Key Largo, like right next to each other. That makes me want to do a big Scolopendra alternans communal enclosure now, like a 40-gallon or something, and just see what happens. So that might be something I would like to get on the and maybe even try keeping heroes together if I get enough more of them. Keep like a male and female, and just give them a crap ton of space. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, getting a little into centipedes. I don't think I really want to get too into them as I say that, as I already have a bunch of them now. So, but we'll see where things go. I think that if more people learned about Rhizida being kept and bred communally, it would make them a lot more popular. And there's some people reporting success with Scolopendra mutilans in communals too. So, used to hate centipedes. I was okay with the Scolopendramorph type things. And for many years when I was younger, I hated house centipedes. I hated Scutigura. And they would pop up in my parents' house multiple times a year, and I was just like phobically afraid of like that I'd be sitting at the computer or something and one of them would crawl across my feet. And I was fine with other bugs at that point too, but just something about them just drove me up the wall. And then at some point, I don't think Kim's not in here right now, Kim Klesiak. She posted a series of macro photos, I think, on Roach forum of them, and it really shows how they have such big compound eyes, and they're just very cute, of course, up close, of course, and it sort of really legitimized them to me. And after that, I have absolutely no problems with them. Like, I don't like their sudden movement. If I see one and they suddenly crawl out from under anything, that's a very instinctive reaction. But after I've sort of gotten past the millisecond of that, I'm like, oh, should I catch that? Do anybody want any of these right now? And of course, I have the Arizona house centipedes, which I've never had the reaction to, but they're a different color, of course. Communal centipedes, says Alan. I was thinking of trying out communal Sculpendra viridis. I had viridis and Scoloplocryptops communally, and the Scoloplocryptops, I think one of them got eaten, but it was very early on in things, so it may have even just died and was eaten by other things instead of getting like directly like killed and predated on. So I think it's entirely possible. That's one thing I can't keep. The girlfriend hates them and won't let me at centipedes. Always have a feral population of them in my dwelling, says some eggs. Yeah, I would really like to maybe get some of these heroes going and try them communally and whatnot. I think a lot of things can be kept that way, at least up until adult. Like Damon Diadema, you can keep them together pretty much up until adulthood. It's once they reach adulthood that they sort of get territorial and all those other weird behaviors that come with being sexually active. So, Alan, if you feel like talking about it on stream, how are your Damon Diadema doing? Because I didn't have any losses while I was in Arizona and beyond, because it's September 15th. The last time I took care of any of my arachnids and stuff was August, somewhere between August 1st and 5th. So it's been over a month. And the Damon were completely fine and seemed to have molted a couple. Actually, the Paraphrygus white eye molted a couple of times too. So yeah, I still have to lost two because their siblings were eating their food. I just have them. It's just a huge communal with a bunch of, and by huge communal I mean there's a bunch of them in it, but it's not a big container. It's one of these like standard sized faunariums. I think it's a medium faunarium. And I just feed them paraplecta and just have them available just 24/7 in there, and they seem to do completely fine that way. Oh, I have a boy who wants to come in. Oh, the boy. That's a whole other thing today. So it was a big day for Victor. And that's because I went outside. This is maybe around 4 or 5 p.m. And he was the last couple of maybe 2 weeks-ish or less than that. There's been a groundhog. Last year there was a groundhog burrow in front of the house. And this year I think they spawned because more people are finding groundhogs in the neighborhood, like my neighbor Scott, and then further a couple houses down, my neighbor Joe. So there have been more of them popping up as we have more of the plantings and whatnot. They feel more comfortable, etc. And so there's been at least one that lived in the front yard, and then now it's sort of either it's the same individual or a different one that sort of expanded into the backyard along the side of the little corridor between my house and my neighbor's. and dug up all the sand, all this other stuff. And Victor's kind of been obsessed with it for the past 10-ish days. There's some days more so than others. When he can actually see the thing, he was really getting worked up by it, and he was hopping over fences that he normally completely ignored to try and catch it. And so, anyways, I go outside today, and what do you know? He finally got the damn thing, and he was sitting there with the dead groundhog in his mouth. And the first thing, I looked at the thing, and there's a little bit of blood coming out. So I thought, oh no! Like, I thought, one, okay, he could have caught it, or two, one of the neighbors could have decided they didn't like a groundhog around and put down poison or something for it. So, neighbor on the one side's outside and sitting on his deck, and I'm like, hey, I have a question for you. Did you put any poison for groundhogs or anything like that? He's like, no, I just put out lawn fertilizer or whatever. And call my other neighbor. Did you poison a groundhog? Nope, but don't do any of that. Like, okay, so he actually caught the damn thing himself. This is not. There's nothing else going on here. So okay, let them go inside. Hello there, little wolf. Hello. You get tired of being out there? Yeah, good boy. So that was the excitement today. I got a picture of him sitting there with the big dead groundhog in front of him, and yeah, so that was his day. Yes, Chris, I am a dedicated YouTuber, eating and streaming at the same time. It's just been one of those days. Tennyson says, at one point, I knew someone who was keeping some of those Hue and Dwarf whiffs with some Philippine giant blue millipedes. I lost contact, but last I heard, he got babies of both. He also had some feather millipedes in with them. You can do communals of a lot of things. It just and sometimes it just happens without your consent. Also, like Samson's not here either, but Samson has a colony of pseudoscorpions living in one of his beetle bins, and he sent quite a few of them to me and Will, and we tried setting them up to try and culture them independently, and not much luck. It could have also been because they were getting too dry or something like that, or the whatever they're feeding on in the beetle bin isn't found in the bins that we had set up, probably springtails or something. But still, you can get these situations where you have a lot of things doing well in one big setup that accommodates everybody's needs. I think there's a lot of value to that. I kind of do that with some things, like how I will usually try to culture stuff in with other things, and sometimes it works, like with the where I sit Longipees, where there's a bunch of isopods and stuff in with them, and they have just been chipping away at it over time. And sometimes it doesn't work, like the Ocala Youth Lastoblata, where the springtails outcompeted them while I was in Arizona, and perhaps even a little before that, by eating all of the fish flakes and other stuff I put in there for them. So, but if you have a good stream of inputs into the system and enough space and microhabitats, you can keep a lot of interesting things. Chellifer cancroides. That's the species that Will really wants to work with, but isn't very common in the United States for some reason. I think the only place he's found that species was under a mattress at the Wilcox Playa in Arizona, like out in the middle of nowhere. I think it was in Arizona on the first trip. He found one Chellifer cancroides. He's just like, what is this doing out here? Like, why? So let's see, any other news for this week? Other things to talk about or look at. Yeah, it's just been a bunch of putting things away. I've had a bunch of take a bunch of time to set up some gryless cricket bins. I have had a bunch of babies hatching from the ones that I collected in Arizona and elsewhere. Excuse me. And those are going to be used for some research in Vermont on a bunch of things. I guess they're doing some evidence for male feminization causing increased reproductive success in certain grylus or something like that, and also doing phylogenetic work on the group since it was recently split into a bunch of species and things were further delineated. So they needed a bunch of different grylus, and so I went and collected pretty much whatever I could wherever I was, and now everything's hatching out, and it's just like, oh. And same with I collected some wild Akita domesticus. It's one of those ones that has deceptive spelling if it's or us. Akita domesticus, which I have tried for many years to get colonies going from pet store crickets, and they always die. Like I have gone so far to try and get a colony of just common house crickets established that I have taken adults that I purchased, put them into deli cups, and then within a day of having them in deli cups, dumped out the substrate and picked out just the eggs, and moved them to a separate incubation container. And there we go, a little bit more light, a little more warm light on my face. Just the eggs. And even then, when I take the eggs and set them up or incubate them and I get a hatch, I will have all the babies just die before they approach like even the second instar. There's this cricket paralysis virus or whatever sort of systemic thing that's going on with that is going on and has been going on with the pet store crickets that are available is just nuts. Like I can't believe I thought I thought surely, oh yeah, if I pick out literally the eggs and don't get any substrate or any frass or anything with them, that I'll be able to get a colony. Just going, nope, nope. I had to go and wild collect Akita domesticus from rural Arizona, and now they're hatching like crazy, and I have a bunch of them now. As a safety assurance policy, I threw them into one of the Air Nevega bins down there, and I'm starting to think that was probably a bad decision. But if I want them to die out, I'll just stop feeding. And I have another culture going downstairs, so I'll probably make those available eventually. Because it's like, what more am I supposed to do to try and get this species to culture? You can't just buy them, apparently. Tennessee. Oh, you're in Tennessee. You're in Utah. So those might be some grylus that I could even use if you go out and catch females with locality information. That could be useful for the cultivation and research stuff. Tigrosa that set up shop in dubia bins. Yeah, I've never had a spider infestation in anything. There's plenty of Steatota, Parasteatota, and Fulcus around the house, and occasionally one will get into a bin. There's a lot more of them on the racks, but I've never actually had spiders actively proliferate inside of bins. It should be kind of cool. Again, communal spiders. So here we are, about a year later from the Arizona trip in September of last year, and I've been waiting for the what are they? The house spiders that I have from Arizona. I can't remember the Latin because it's probably, they may or may not be that. Communal spider. Communal whip spider, no. Did I not attempt that? Physocyclus, genus Physocyclus, I thought they were. And so it's been a year, and I got some babies right after I set them up when we got back. And then eventually the group sort of distilled down to about 7-ish large individuals, and it was that way for months and months and months and months. And now I moved them into either 5.5 or a 10-gallon to try and give them as much room as possible, and hoping that I could actually get a colony of them culturing. Finally, I have babies. Finally, this is like 9 or 10 months after the last batch that were produced. And the problem is that the setup I had them in before was a faunarium turned upside down, so I could pop the bottom off and wouldn't disturb their webs or anything like that. This time I just did a straight up 5.5 or 10-gallon, and I thought, okay, I'll put all the decor really low, and then the spiders will not be able to get all the way up near the top, and they won't make webs there because in the wild we found them under stones and all this other stuff. So they'll be underneath this sort of potting, broken pot configuration that I had put in the bottom. Nope, they made their webs all the way up at the top. So I opened it up and was like, oh boy, babies. And then a couple of babies fell on the floor, and I was like, oh no, babies. So I wrangled them as best as I could and fed them and got in and out really quick. So we'll see what happens. But this is not the glamorous process I was hoping it would be. I was really hoping that I could just have, like we found them in the wild, just flip something over and there would be just hundreds of spiders in one web together. So I have my hopes kind of up-ish. At least I can probably keep them going and keep a colony until I can figure out a better way to do this. I guess that maybe a side opening enclosure could be good, but the problem with that is that they don't fit on my racks. I'd have to make a special customized container with a side port so it would actually fit on my rack the normal way a 10 or 5.5 gallon is supposed to be, versus having some sort of weird access port on the side. So that requires brain power. Which is something I don't have a lot of right now. Then there was another communal spider that I found this last time in Arizona, up in the mountains near Paradise, and they look like some sort of little orb weaver. Let's see if I could, maybe just a shot in the dark. See if I could find anything for it. So it's probably an Araneomorpha. And they're little black spiders. They like to hang out in the web with all their legs pulled in, really close to the body. They look kind of like little bits of bark and debris when they're hanging out in the web like that. Is this? What's this? And so, and these were another set of spiders that were all in the same web together. Like it was the same section of material and whatnot. And so, who knows what they actually? I can't really find anything that sort of fits the bill from the pictures that I'm looking at, per se. But they're very quirky little spiders, and I'm hoping that maybe I will get the experience out of raising them that I was hoping for with the with the Fulcids, because that I just want a communal spider that's easy, and that would definitely fill the bill. I can't really find anything. Like, there's no particular taxon that really screams what they are. What is this? Oh, different taxonomy. Yeah, I'm not sure what group of Araneomorphs they could be in. Hackle mesh weavers. And again, the body type. Unless there's anybody out here who's very familiar with different groups of spiders. Let's see. Ant mimics, wandering spiders. They're not a nephazid, not an ogre faced. And they definitively build and use in sheet web and dwarf spider, linophiids. But anyways, unique location to have found them. And is that? Nope, that's not it. Yeah, this would definitely take more of a spider expert, far more of a spider expert than I am to figure out. Especially just going through bug guide pages one by one and seeing what might match up to it. But again, it's very interesting that they rest in the web and they don't look like a bird poop or anything like that. They kind of have a very geometric-y shape. Dedication, sleep, no, stream. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel today. Nikki Sigmund, hello, good to see you. Let's see what you say here. How do you keep the various micro roaches? Anything particularly different than your other setups? Well, if you allow me to shove my face with a little bit more cereal, I can show you one of the enclosures. Here's a good example. So this is a Cariblatta lutea culture. You can see there's quite a few of them in here. And if it were winter, there would actually be even more because they like the dry air and frequent watering conditions better than they do like consistently humid conditions. There's a bit of a flower pot fungus mycelium creeping through things here. I don't really like that much. I think that it annoys some roaches at best, and at worst, I think it changes the conditions or chemistry of the substrate within the enclosure. But at the same time, there's a lot of Cariblatta in here, so they're pretty happy. So you can see full top ventilation. The fungus mycelium kind of obscures the moisture gradient. You can kind of see, I guess, where the mycelium is a little bit happier back here, where it's actually moist at this back end, because when I water through the port, a lot of the water goes straight to the back and then goes into the substrate. But a lot of this front substrate is dry. I would prefer it to be bone dry if I could, and it will be during the winter time. The mycelium, yeah, it's little tiny granules like that. Have the orb weavers in existence. PT2265. Yeah, that looks about no. It's not the mini. Is it? No. I don't know if that number refers to. Oh, here's a little graphic showing all of them. It is the PT2260. I use the 65s for a lot of other stuff, but this is the 60. 65 is where I have down or in this room where I have some things like the Taphiliska and the Melanozosteria, and downstairs where I have some things like the different types of earwigs, Eurycotus, since these are just absolutely phenomenal for keeping things in. So, yeah. So this is how I keep all of them. And again, ideally, you just have maybe the back fifth moist and the rest of it completely dry, just in case anybody needs to get a little bit more moist, especially when the air is dry. That's going to be. I'm actually really excited to see what the air humidity gets to with the digital hygrometer this year, because last year I wasn't measuring it at all in here, and last year in the basement I was using a not digital. It was just a battery-less hygrometer thing. This is more inaccurate, this year I have a hygrometer up here and in the basement, and I really want to get a hard read on the air humidity so I can really drive home and push the effects of having a dry furnace heating your house during the wintertime if you're in a cold climate, because this room has been swinging between, I want to say I saw it in the high 30s one of these days, but usually right now it's 47%, which would have read as about 60 to 70% in the basement. So this is my new sort of baseline. So it's about 50% here. If it rains outside, it'll go all the way up to high 60s-ish. I don't think I've seen it break 70 yet, 70% relative humidity in here. Basement is a little bit higher. All the cool, humid air sort of pools down there, and so it stays a bit more humid during the summertime. And we haven't had any rain, really. It's been weeks since we've had rain, which is phenomenal. Like, it's crazy. So, so yeah, I'm excited to see what that number drops to, because if it goes down to like 10, I'll be like, I knew it. And now I have an exact number to show the difference of humidities. So I'm going to go ahead and put these guys back. Also, for the materials in here, it's a mix of like coconut croutons and hardwood bark from one of my neighbors who had a tree taken down or whatever. Or even I've used softwood bark now too, because some people have had like spruces removed, and I just let it ferment outside for more time, and it's usually fine. It's just you don't really want that fresh stuff because of all the volatile compounds it has in it. But once it's been outside, it's aged, some of the compounds have escaped. It's been colonized by various fungi and whatnot. Then I will sterilize it and then bring it in and use it for things. Or for some things, I won't even sterilize it if I think they really need that extra kick of active microbes and whatnot. So yes, I do have multiple species of earwigs. Last year I had a colony of labia minor. It's a very good on the nose scientific name of labia minor, which did really well feeding on flower pot fungus mycelium, which I did not add intentionally to their culture cup, and fish flakes. And they actually, until I had the shenanigans with that springtail chamber I was trying to do, they were doing really well, and there was a colony of Entomobrai, Graciole ovata in with them, and they were both doing really well. And so I'm hoping that I can find more of those labia minor this fall. They were under a plywood board in the yard that had a bunch of fermenting straw with a bunch of fungus growing in it. You know, they were just on the underside of the log, and so they're most likely fungivores, or they could be omnivores and prefer to breed on fungus. So I had those going and lost them because of the shenanigans. If I find them again, I will get them going again, and I really like them because they were so tiny. Other than that, I have had Anissolabus. And now that I've seen Labradora rhiparia, I will never confuse them with Anissolabus. It's just because you have Labradora rhiparia, which is the shore earwig, and then you have Anissolabus maritima, which is the maritime earwig, and I would mix them up constantly. So I have also bred Anissolabus maritima. I need to collect them again when I go to Florida, whenever, or if anybody who lives along, near the ocean somewhere could find them. So I bred those two for multiple generations, and currently have colony of Uberellia arcanum, and that colony has been going a long time. I think since I lived with my parents, maybe, unless Alan, you sent me a restart at some point within the last 5 years. Otherwise, it's at least 5 years old. So the Uberellia arcanum, the arcane giant earwigs. I've had a colony since 2019 or 2020 going of Uberellia and Eulipes from Satchel, who sent me a bag of dirt to look through, and actually found quite a few fun things in there. That was one of them. I think the whole colony started from one female that was in the bag of dirt. And now also a colony of Labrador riparia. So I have them, I've gotten babies to third instar, and I feel pretty confident that they're going to culture and just be the same as any other earwigs. And now every time I go outside and I see the common European earwig, I'm like, when am I going to breed those? Because I've never bred those. I tried to breed them when I lived at my parents' house, and I threw them in a poorly ventilated container. Was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna breed these earwigs. Oh yeah, the common garden earwigs. Of course you can breed them. They're super easy. And then I never got them to breed. And so now I feel I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder. So what I might do is I might go and collect like a if I can even find them, an immature female or an adult female, and then go out and try to find the biggest one that I can of the Europeans and just sort of stack the deck and try to make some huge ones. Although a lot of the size, in my experience, is diet dependent. If they don't have a good diet, they'll mature smaller, and if they do, they'll get quite large. So Alan asked if we can see my millipede setup. I don't have any on hand here, and they're in heavy 5.5 and 10-gallon tanks. Although I do have this well, that's not an established setup, so I'm not going to bother. So, but when I do a tour of the bug room, which is that blog post gone up yet? After the auction weekend, at some point after that, I'm going to have a tour of the bug room, so that'll be on there. So let's see. Chris says, killed off all my Blatella cyanide. Turns out they like it dry, but not my hissers finally look thirsty dry. And Uricotis floridana can absolutely be kept too wet. Yep, those are good lessons to learn. Do you know any good place to get bulk cork bark slabs? Need some more from my Blabberus enclosure. No, I don't. Although Pangea has been running a special at my local show where you pay $20 for a big, like a tote bag, and then you can they have a big bin of coconut fiber or cork bark, and you can just throw as much cork bark as you can fit into that bag. You get for $20, and so I've been capitalizing on that when I go to the expo. I don't know if they have an online deal for something like that, but. And Chain says, be very interested in the labia minor. Hope you can get some again. They're here. It's just a matter of attracting them. And it was when I was looking under that piece of plywood, it was very easy to see them clinging to the plywood. And it's not like I don't have plenty of stuff around that they could be under, because I have a bunch of really, really old pressure treated lumber that kind of delineates my compost pile in the backyard. And then behind the chicken coop, there's a bunch of debris that I can always move around, look for stuff for. But with it being so dry, that tells me there's not going to be a lot of mycelium activity, and it's going to be kind of a pain trying to find them. I might have a better luck looking somewhere where things are sort of more, there's a lot more mycelium activity. Again, it's just right now it's the deck stacked against me for finding anything that feeds on that because it's so dry. So Morava pulchella, Alan says, oh yeah, those are really pretty. I would like to try those at some point. I think I maybe tried them before. You know, Alan, those what was the species that we found before? I am not good. I don't remember my earwig identities anymore. The ones that we found under the bark that live in little family and friend groups. Oh, I can't remember them. Vostoks, that's it. I'd like to try Vostoks again, and this time instead of being small brain and putting them in a 32-ounce deli cup or 16-ounce deli cup, I would probably put them into a full-size enclosure and let them infest it, because they were eating little chambers into the mycelium that I was giving them, and I can't remember if they dried out or something like that. in the 32-ounce cup, or if it just, I think it was weird. I think the mycelium in some parts started to mold. Sometimes if I make the mix wrong, instead of the white rot fungus colonizing through the wood, it will die and then it will mold over, and that's not good for things. I think that might have been what happened in the Vostox container, even though they still ate a little chamber out of it. But I would like to try them again and actually give them a bunch of space to do what they can do. So Tennyson says, I have some cork coming in from them online where it is a 5-pound box, but they range from 3 to 70 inches, and I need large ones for my blabbers and whatnot. But when it comes in, I guess I will see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that seems to be a pretty good deals that they get on those. Doru earwigs, we found those a couple times too. Flies easily, sometimes comes to lights by the thousands in the tropics, says Bug Guide. Oh yeah, that's a more of a Florida-y thing. Yeah. Yeah, I'll just keep trying more earwigs as I find them. Again, I keep dragging my feet with Europeans, but there's just so many of them that like there's no rush. And honestly, I keep buying the pet stores out of all their faunariums and stuff, and so I'm kind of like constantly pressured for more enclosures, because it's like, well, I could set up an enclosure with these common European earwigs that I will literally be able to find anywhere for the rest of my life, or I could set up these grylus from one little spot in Arizona that I may never ever go back to and nobody ever will go to again. Which one of these am I going to choose? So, but eventually, because they do just sort of vanish very suddenly in the fall. So, yeah, the Dorus are very, very pretty, but the Labradora, I've never seen them in person before. I kind of assumed because of the colors and their shape that they were a smaller earwig, but they're even bigger than the Uberelli arcanums. They're huge. They're not as bulky, but they're longer and they're kind of more lanky. And so I think they'd be very popular among the handful of earwig enthusiasts who are out there. Maybe I'll do that. I'll do a Kai Flex and post a blog post with here's my extensive earwig collection. Oh, I have to flex on everybody with my earwig list. So actually, it's a damn shame that the St. Helena giant ones went extinct. But there's gotta be another species that is near that size. I can't see why there would be this taxon with all these species that are like about an inch long, and nothing bridging the gap between an inch long and like 4.5 inches. Like there's gotta be. Does anybody know if there are any other giant earwig species? It's also possible that they could be subject to adapting gigantism, because it's very noticeable with the Arcanum, where it's like I didn't feed them anything for a month and a half, since I set up and left for Arizona, and then between now when I actually gave them a roach. And a lot of the adults are definitely a lot smaller than usual. They're maybe like 3/5 or less the size of the usual adults. And then when I offer them actual protein in the form of the roaches, they'll get huge. They'll just be gigantic monsters. So I'm wondering if there's some pre-adaptation thing going on there, where earwigs are just with the right conditions and food sources, if within a few generations it's just so highly advantageous to develop bigger size that it affects them on both a ontological and population genetics level. So, any other news for bugs? Look behind me. I mean, there's some things here and there. It's been very busy, and I anticipated that summer would be like this and crazy, especially with all the trips and stuff. And so I'm kind of looking forward to winter, because then I can kind of slow down and take care of things and not really worry about finding 5 new bugs that I need to set up every time I walk outside the house. Jojo says if you have those barn supply stores like we have in Canada, they can order those funariums in bulk, and they always discount stuff in bulk instead of pet stores. We do have places like Tractor Supply. The problem is, and I found other sources for the faunariums and stuff, but the problem is that they're one of those things where they seem to produce just the bare minimum number of them. And so there's a lot of back orders and stuff, and not all distributors get the same treatment for them. So I basically, anytime I see them in one of my local stores, I will just buy all of them because I always need them. So, and the organization just makes my life so much easier. So like all these containers, since it's the office stuff, I go through and check on it like once every like 7 to 10 days because it's stuff that I consider very high priority within. I mean, nobody look at you can't see it because it's out of shot, but nobody look at the Tenebrio Obscurus container. That's definitely not high priority, but I don't know why I put it up here. Maybe just to get them started. But anyways, and a lot of the Aranavega and smaller new species and little ectobiids that need more care than they would get if they were in the basement. And so, yeah, I go through, and depending on the room humidity, I'll spray them every day to every couple days. In the winter, everything will just get hosed down every day, and that'll be fine because of the dryness. So, Tennyson asks, aren't Labradora maritima somewhat large? Yes, they are large. They basically look like Uberelli arcanum, but a lot, just noticeably larger. And yeah, I do. What happened to those? They maybe dried out. They probably dried out. A lot of stuff that wasn't being very closely eyeballed from the March 2021 Florida trip. A lot of things dried out or didn't do well over the summertime. Like my pancake slugs, I had them in too small of an enclosure. They had a bunch of ammonia build up and they died. So I was like, all right, we'll just quadruple the size of the enclosure. Alatoria are also somewhat large. I think they're about the same as Riparian, though I don't think there are any living ones more than maybe 2 inches, but I am not an expert. I don't know if I've ever encountered anybody claiming to be or claiming to know an expert on earwigs. I would love to talk to that person if such a thing exists. Like, that's one of those orders of insects where people are just like, earwigs. Like, even though I like them, I don't know. I can't really picture anybody particularly waking up in the morning every day and be like, oh, yeah, I am going to be an earwig master and propagate and learn and taxonomize everything I can think of about earwigs because they're just so incredible and amazing and awesome. Like, I don't think anybody like that exists, but labradorologists, dermatologists. Same with web spinners too. I can't think of anybody whose life is centered around knowing more about web spinners. So, but other than that, it's coming up on an hour, and I kind of wanted to go finish. I am getting the upstairs ready for making my house as saleable as possible because it needs to be as pretty and organized and appealing as possible for when I have people over to see the house and they get to see the upstairs, and all the rooms except the office are living human spaces, and then they will eventually go downstairs and have an existential crisis when they notice that it's like 1,000 square feet of nothing but bugs, and most of them are cockroaches. So I figure we front load the experience by having the upstairs as pleasant as possible and as milk toast and appealing to a wide audience as possible. And then they can have their culture shock going downstairs. So where was I going with that? Oh, I've dismantled I had a rack with some vivariums that I kept going with some very hard to kill plants like snake plants and Tredscantia and whatnot. And I had that in the living room for basically since I moved in, and now I've sort of decided again that I'd like to just tidy everything up, not just for selling the house, but for my sanity too, so that when I'm trying to relax in the evening, I'm not looking at vivariums and reminded that if I'm not doing something every second of every day, that things are going to die or not culture properly. I need the separation of work and life occasionally. So might be a tough sell. Chain says, just learned that mantids are a predatory offshoot of roaches that diverge in the Mesozoic. Little flake of oats went down the wrong pipe. Yeah, mantids are basically brain dead predatory roaches. There were at one point roaches that were also predatory. Maybe they were roachoids, but they were more closely related to what we now consider to be cockroaches than they are to even mantids. And I think those went extinct around the Cretaceous for some reason. But I mean, yeah, if you look at a cockroach and a mantid side by side, especially something like very very roachoid like a Chirodotus or a Rhombodera, so the very large pronotum, you can just say, oh yeah, I can see how you just sort of swap the color palette and change the proportions, and you've got a cockroach here. So genus manipulator. Imagine the massacre that'll take place when Kyle moves. The plan for the move is the building will be all set up and ready, and racks will probably be moved on an individual basis with all of their parts labeled. All of the tanks will be labeled with their rack in their respective places on said rack too. So unlike excuse me. So unlike last time where I was being rushed, extremely rushed to move from point A to point B as soon as point B was open and available, this will be more of a probably over the course of a week, moving several racks and their contents per day. And it may even be such, depending on how things are then and how many vehicles and whatnot are available and what route we take, that I might even be able to just do maintenance when I get the containers to the building, open them up, move things, to just check on things and make sure everything's fine after the move and bark hasn't fallen over, etc. Throw the food in, and then that's a chunk of work that would just be taken off of the bailiwick. Also, the option to have currently the shelves do not have wheels on them, which is fine. I didn't know wheeled shelves of the make that I use was even an option until recently. They are a bit pricey, but depending on how much the house sells for, it may be a worthwhile investment for me to get the ones with wheels. And so that's something else I'm going to look into, that I may rework everything from the ground up, and instead of necessarily moving all the racks and keeping things in place, instead buying a bunch of new racks and setting them up one by one as they're needed at the place. So CS, congrats on Hisser breeding. That's always good to, quick note, I guess semi-quick note. I remember my first hissers in winter of 2007. Junior, senior. 2007. It would actually been late 2006. Sometime in December, I received my first hissing cockroaches during a below zero below like 0 degrees Fahrenheit day. It was supposed to be -7 or -17 outside, and was it January? No, it was December. It was before Christmas, because I had I remember antagonizing people to loan me money when I was in high school so I could buy cockroaches. And it was below zero outside, and they came in. They were from, I don't know if he even sells them anymore, but from leopardgecko.com, from Ron Tremper, I believe. And I think the website that it was called at the time was like Roach Ranch or something. And it was like $25, and you got 20 adult hissing cockroaches shipped. Boy, those were the days. Those, oh boy, that was interesting times. And they were shipped priority mail, and they were just loose in the box with egg cartons. Just you could shake the box and you hear the roaches falling around because they were all cold stunned. I remember getting them, and they all looked like they were on the verge of death, but they weren't. And I just remember like immediately throwing them in the tank, and like, oh, I remember one evil thing that my mom did, because I got these and said, oh, I'm gonna breed them for feeders for my plated lizards and all this stuff, other stuff. And there was one nymph. There was one like inch and a half long nymph in this group of 20 roaches, and he had thrown in a couple of extras like 22, 23. And she was like, I need some proof that they actually eat these things. You got to show me. And so I remember, and see, this is how this is something that happened, because it sticks with me this very day. And I remember feeding it putting in with the plated lizards, and then just annihilating it as I put it in there. And I always felt bad, because it's like, it was one of my first roaches. I didn't know if I was going to breed them. I didn't know what was going on. And it's just like, I had to sacrifice it for proof of concept. And so that's always stuck with me. That rest in peace, rest in power, you poor little hisser. You gave yourself up, and your sacrifice was not in vain. Look at what you led to. So, yeah, I remember the agonizing wait, and then looking up to see, like, oh, it laid an egg case, or oh, look, I see one of them making an egg case. Do they lay them? Do they take them back in? And then looking on the all pet roaches site. Oh, hey, Kai. Why would I talk about you behind your back when I could do it in front of your face? What was I gonna say? Anyways, I remember seeing the ooth being formed in like January or something, and then just sort of like getting so frustrated that the roaches seemed happy, and I had the temperature right, and I had all this other stuff, and that I was so frustrated. It's like, where are the babies? Like, they're not breeding. I'm doing everything right. And then I think it was, so I received the roaches around December 20th. It was right before Christmas. And then early March, it may have been between like March 3rd and March 7th. And it was the morning of the Science Olympiad, which is like this thing that, for high school students at U of M Dearborn, where you would go there, and you go and you compete against other people and stuff like in engineering and the math, at computer scene, all just a whole bunch of stuff. And so I was obviously thrown into the group for the bug challenge, as I was the bug expert. But I remember that morning before I left for that, and I was checking on them excitedly, and I remember seeing a bunch of babies crowd around the food bowl, and that memory really stuck with me. Just the joy of finally, after waiting for three-ish months, 3.5 months, to finally see baby roaches, and that was just so wonderful. And I remember by that summer, like by July or August, there were so many hissers, and they were all getting so big that I could take the like jumbo size zucchinis that we would get at the farmer's market, and I could throw them in there, and they would just eat the whole thing in like a day. And so, yeah, that was and then that would have been the fall that I really got into roach keeping, because then I started swapping with people and buying other roaches and stuff like that. And that's how we got where we are today. So, Tennyson, how are the Goliaths doing? Kai, oh yeah, Kai got an adult pair of Goliaths. My Goliaths have the ones that I pulled out of the setup. I still have to go through and do a double check of the setup. The problem is that Christian didn't come in today, and I have a bunch of other containers that need to be washed and cleaned out and stuff, and that's kind of lower priority until the other ones get done. And so I haven't actually gone through and checked the big communal that I pulled the other ones out of. But the ones that I pulled out have rebounded from being lethargic or just kind of in general in poor shape to being phenomenal. And we're gonna see how that goes. I feel like I think I said this. I think I said this before. Oh, that I feel a lot more confident on devising a practical way for me to raise a good number of Goliaths to adulthood. I feel like all the things that I have learned from the past 2 attempts have really given me a good skill set to approach the production from. So, and tennis, I did not know they can scratch. Oh yeah, Goliaths. They will scratch you up real good, real good. So, and let's see. So we're a little over the hour mark, and again, I should get to cleaning off racks and getting things ready again, because between like Tuesday and Friday of next week is when all the mantids are coming in, and I have some other things I guess happen. It's anybody here familiar with the phrase yak shaving? It's where I guess it's used in 2 different contexts. It's used in the procrastinatory context where you're like, well, I could be doing the work that I'm supposed to right now, but I could also be doing my laundry. I guess it's used in that context, but it's also used in a more productive context where there's a series of things you have to do to get the things you want done. Where it's basically like with the joke kind of being like, I need to buy groceries, but first I need to shave this yak. And basically it's like you shave the yak so you can milk the yak, so you can make the butter, so you can sell the butter, so you can have the money to buy, like that sort of things. It is not an Armenian thing. It is not a Turkish thing either. So shaving a Wookiee, maybe that's the same thing. But yeah, basically, so it's like, so for my goal of putting the rack up, first I have to move all of the extra containers that are in that area away from the area. Then I need to wash and dust and whatever the corner that all that stuff is currently in, so that I can put the rack there and have it be nice and clean and whatnot. And then I have to move everything that I moved away from there, either onto the rack or onto another rack. So this is a whole process of things that I have to do with all these moving parts before I can actually get what I want to do done, which is getting the things on the freaking rack. So, yak shaving is no joking matter. Yeah, so it's a whole process of things you have to do. There's a bunch of people in here tonight. I feel bad wrapping up. Somebody asked me some questions. I'll stall for time for like 6 more minutes because we just have so many people in here tonight. Japonica, no, I did not answer your question earlier. Did you send it? Is it in an email or is it here? If I'm like picking Kyle's guinea pigs up, yeah, I'll at least a little bit more time. No, Tennis, I did not see the Japonica question, so feel free to ask it. I'm going to look around and see if I have bug to show anywhere. It's very important to show bug now. No, I haven't shown this before, I don't think. accessible. Let me just show this off. This is a gift from Kai from Texas. This is a Pedodactys Bruneri katydid. Let's see if we can get a focus on the face there. I think I've seen these before when I've gone out west and gone through Texas. For having one leg, you sure can jump. But the other ones I saw did not seem to have as strong facial markings as this one does. Come on, you son of a sea biscuit. Focus. Focus. Hope it doesn't bite me. Let's see. I'm trying to think of how I can show it off and get this too close. It's kind of okay there. Yeah. Because I really like the white facing. And so Kai has said that they do. How do you rescue overwatered roaches? Oh, let me hit that question up first. You dry them out, put them on a towel, like a really fluffy towel, and just sort of leave them there. Who was that? If they can recover, they usually will. And Japonica, yes, they are as cold tolerant as people say they are. That apparently they've been found walking on ice. I think that's kind of a half truth type thing, where it's like you probably wouldn't see them walking around in like a snowstorm, but on a warm spring day as like a snow pile is melting, yeah, I guess I could see them crawling out of the snow pile or crawling out from under debris there or something. So yeah, this katydid, although Kai says that they are predatory or whatever, has so far ignored all the pre-killed things that I've offered it, from mealworms to mealworm pupae to caterpillars to roaches and to crickets as well, and prefers to eat Rapashi crested gecko diet, which it has become quite engorged with. I like how Kyle's eyes just widened up. Come on, there. It was focusing on stuff that was closer before. Sweet spot, maybe. Maybe I could figure out how to manually focus this thing. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I got to be all the way back here, and I have to do like a clickbait YouTube thumbnail and shove it up in your face, basically, it seems. Back here. One day I'll get the hang of this. So, let's see. Brett is a Pedodactys Bruneri. Get Orthoptera, but I hate noises coming from inside my house. Some eggs, Taphiliska eleuthera, don't make any sort of courtship call. So you might want to look into those, and those are going to be an up-and-coming pet orthopteran. Kai insulting both my equipment as well as my isopod care that has produced numerous Troglodilo rotundatus, among other species. Let's see. Hilaria and Eucharidia today. Oh, okay. Hilaria. Oh, I have some Hilaria that I have been doing well. It is another thing that takes so long to do everything, but they're so huge, it's worth it. Predatory doesn't mean scavenger. The caterpillar was alive, though. Looks like somewhat like a bald-faced hornet. Pretty coloration. The eye spot is neat. Oh, I got more tricolors in, actually. The other ones were eaten by Troglodilo, which might actually be predatory, according to Alan, or at least partially predatory. Put your other hand behind the bug like a beauty YouTuber showing product. Okay. Like that. Did that work? Maybe. We'll figure this out eventually. For now, it can just hang out by my face. Probably won't bite me. Probably. So, but yeah, so she's been laying some eggs in the cup that I have her in. I'm not crazy interested in raising this species, but if I generate some passively, they may grow on me. It may be a Taphiliska situation. So They're pretty cool. Good size. I like the face markings. Kai insulting my equipment once more. It should be able to focus. It's just a matter of maybe me taking myself out of the shot. It's autofocus too. And put this all the way back here. This here. Curious what this thing's thinking. Oh, it almost focused for a second there. That's okay. I'm sure there's some way that I can manually toy with the focus, but that's a little put real close to the camera with you. Okay, real close to the camera with my hand behind it. Whoop. What do you know? That was excellent advice. Well, this changes things. There we go. Whoop. So yeah, now you can thoroughly enjoy this Pedodactys brunneri up close and personal. Thank you so much. Missing one leg, but it's fine. So, good camera. Very good camera, actually. She's coming in for a kiss. Delicious facial marking. Again, I feel like I've seen this species and collected it before, but with the facial marking was not quite as prominent, so I wasn't as huge of a fan. So, yeah, so I guess that's the show bug for today. It is a really cool bug. You know, I guess do I have one more bug to show? I have one more bug to show, I guess. Put you back. For anybody who's tuning in for the auction too, that's going to be. I'm just telling you right now. I do have some things I have not sort of shown off, and that will be up for grabs during that time. That are quite impressive too. So I'm really looking forward to the auction. It's going to be so much work. I'm going to be so exhausted, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and people are going to get a lot of cool bugs. So this is actually a little lady who graced me. Who graced me last night. I think maybe around 7 p.m. I was moving some new trick, moving some enclosures. Inside. Oh, now you guys have to look at my horrible anxiety-ridden nails. That's okay. I was moving some enclosures inside. There we go. And she was just hanging out on one of them. It's an Amblycarifa species. I prefer Microcentrum. I think Amblycarifa, some species lay inside of leaves and some of them lay in soil. And I don't really have the patience to figure out which one this female is going to be. And I'd much rather work with Microcentrum or Stolpniclora because they lay on branches and I know that inside and out. So this one's actually going to a lucky customer who was requesting katydids. So, but it's a neat green katydid. We are at the time of year where I start finding Microcentrum. I'm surprised I haven't seen them yet, but it's just been so dry. Everything's so weird. Do those chirp? Yes, they do. And there's a lot of different Amblycarifa, Microcentrum, and other genre that look fairly similar. Tennyson with Japonica at 60 to 68 degrees. So you can breed them year round if they're kept over a certain temperature. If they go under a certain temperature, they have a facultative diapause where sometimes the population will be forced into diapause under certain temperatures. So they would do really well with variable conditions where parts of the year are colder and parts of the year are warmer. But if it's cold constantly, I'm not sure how well they'll perform. Versus being warm constantly, oh yeah, they'll definitely breed constantly that way. Do I still keep S. Couloniana? Yes, I do, but this last generation that hatched out just hasn't gotten any momentum. And the problem with Stolpniclora is that in all my experience, the adult females seem to just lay one clutch of eggs and then they die. They will push out a group of 100-ish eggs, and then they will die a couple of weeks later. And the males will live for like over a year and just keep going. But that is very annoying to sort of put all the time and effort into raising them. They get to adulthood, push out 100 eggs, and then they die. And out of those 100 eggs, I'm finding out more now that you will get a hatch a couple of months after they're laid, and then you won't get any more, and then they'll just sort of be a trickle hatch, or there'll be another hatch at some other point in time after that. It's difficult to tell which eggs have hatched and which ones haven't. So I love them a lot. I have to rethink the viability of being able to produce them for commercial availability. And another factor is during the winter time, they definitely do the best on bramble. They will also eat basil. And what else will they eat? Privet, honeysuckle. They definitely have their favorite plants, and like maples are very reliable for a lot of katydids. And so I need to find a way to make high quality food available year round to propagate enough to not just keep for myself, but to be able to make available. So that's sort of the problem. The solution to that is instead of me trying to go heavily into Stulpniclora, that I could work more with temperate ones, because things like microcentrum, I can just force the eggs to diapause and then take them out when the leaves for their host plants emerge. But I will have a lot more tools to propagate things over the winter when I move facilities, because there will definitely be a designated greenhouse for growing vegetation for herbivorous things over the winter. Do you have any cool assasing bugs you are bringing other than the common hobby ones? I have microcentrum from Alan. Oh, yeah, I do have another one. I think there's one platymeris I don't have that just sort of popped up within the last year. But I have platymeris and Satella and whatnot. Those colonies are actually doing quite well, and I'll have even more of them available over the winter, I think. But this has been my little pet project here. This is the last thing I show off, and then I'm going to go off and work on racks. The female of these came to Kai's Light when we were in Tennessee. And actually, I need to add some water to here because some of them don't look so hot. These are blood-sucking cone noses. And I'm actually excited and hoping that I can get them going, because it's very easy to feed them because I have rodent colonies. So I want to make sure I don't breathe any dust from here, because that could get chagas. So, but I like them a lot more than human beings probably should. I do think the adults are very pretty looking. And so, yeah, this has been my little guilty pleasure assassin bug. I would like to get Zealous, the white-legged phases and whatnot. No, I would like to get Zealous going again. I had the Longipes white striped legs ones going for multiple generations, and then I started working last summer, and then they died out, because although they're really easy, you can just feed them fruit flies. It's a matter of having enough fruit flies. It's kind of like yak shaving. I have to have good numbers of fruit flies to be able to give a bunch of fruit flies to a bunch of assassin bugs. And so these are things that need systems in place to keep them going. And so even if I'm successful with them, I still need to figure out and work on long-term management strategies for things that don't eat fish flakes, dog food, and apples. And so that's something that I've been working on. So yeah, I think that'll do it for this live stream. Next week will that be the last one before no, we'll have one more before the auction then. So yeah, next week's live stream, same time, same place. One more live stream after that. There will be a live stream the week of the auction. And then, of course, there will be the auction, the Bugapalooza. I might even get some little Halloween, October, Spooktober themed apparel to wear, put around for them. I try and have some fun while I torture myself. All right, one last question from Tennyson. Can Titius be kept chameleon have been set up? Titius stigmerus, the scorpion? Ooh, Zealous Janus. Let's see, Zealous Janus. Oh, the color is kind of apt, but if they're bigger than Longipes, then yeah, that's a pretty cool assassin bug. Dynasties Titius. So I don't have enough long-term experience with Titius, but in the wild, you can find multiple larvae in the same cavity, and getting them to pupate is probably the stopgap there if they do or don't have enough space in your captive setup. So anyone who wants a bunch, DM me. What about Hugh Janus? So yeah, you can pester Kai more about that. He has a lot more beetle experience than I do, but yes, you can raise the larvae communally, and the adults probably shouldn't keep males together, but probably one male with multiple females is fine. What species is the roach on the roach crossing icon? That is Arenovega floridensis archbold, which is pretty much the same thing as Arenovega floridensis Lake Placid. There's still enough difference between the localities that I would feel very guilty mixing the two of them, but physically they're pretty much identical. So, so it is Arenovega floridensis, and locality looks like Lake Placid, but the picture is actually of Archbold. So, anyways, thanks everybody for a great stream. I love those viewership numbers. I hope it keeps going up. I think I said I would feel like the live stream has been a huge success, and this is not to undermine any of you regulars, because you are the part of what makes the magic happen. But I feel like I would consider it a hugest success if I was able to get to 20 viewers, 20 minimum viewers every live stream. I would feel like that would make it just the hugest of successes. And we're getting close to there. Hopefully the auction will have a lot of people here, and if it doesn't, then that just means anybody who actually is here is going to get some really good groups of stuff. So yeah. So anyways, thanks anybody who just joined in for the first time. Thank you to people who are always here. I love recognizing everybody. And you know what? Actually, I realized that we're coming up on, I think it's after the auction, but we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary for the live stream, and I might do something special for that. So stay tuned for that as well. So maybe start giveaway once a month. Yeah, I could do that. I probably should have done that more during the summer when shipping was cheaper, but we will see. The only thing about giveaways is that as much as I would like to just bribe people to come here with free stuff, I like it more that it's sort of the people who are here because they like hanging out with the other bug people. They have lots of things to share and are interested in the things that I'm doing that people may not. That like, for example, if I were to say, all right, the great earwig giveaway, go and post this everywhere that we're doing an earwig giveaway, that you would get a free colony of this earwig. You know, I don't think it would be met with the same enthusiasm as if I said that with the group of people who has been here tonight, who have found things organically, where it's like, yeah, if I said I was giving away Labrador Riparia, I think Tennyson and Brett might get in a fist fight over who wins, who gets to have them. And I appreciate that enthusiasm greatly. So, okay. Drawn out the goodbyes. Take care, everybody. I will see you all next week. And until then and beyond, may your cultures ever be bountiful.